In a world where brand experience is paramount, upholding your company's standards demands unwavering consistency in every location. At the SBOA, we understand the critical role consistency plays in driving your business's success. That is why we joined forces with MSI to introduce a revolutionary internal audit program tailored to meet the specific needs of your organization. Our game-changing audit program leverages cutting-edge technology and expert insight to bring you unparalleled accuracy and reliability. We know that success in this competitive environment is paved with adherence to operational requirements, and every company has its own standards along with state and local regulations to adhere to. So we've made our internal audit system completely customizable, all in a user-friendly app. The app enables on-site agents to collect real-time data and insights from their respective locations. This feature ensures that information is up to date and allows for quick responses to any issues or challenges that could arise. Our internal audit program also has advanced photo and video reporting capabilities. These visual reporting tools allow leadership to visualize non-compliant sites and gain a comprehensive understanding of the issues, with specific examples for clear context, which enhances communication and leads to faster resolutions. And it can be done with just a few clicks and the snap of a photo or quick video. And our program provides an in-depth understanding of each store's performance and challenges. This feature allows for a comprehensive assessment of how well each location adheres to operational requirements and brand standards, helping to identify areas for improvement. Are you ready to take your self-storage business to the next level? Explore our comprehensive suite of services, including internal audit programs, mystery shopping, and unlock your full potential. Contact us today to embark on a journey of excellence and success. 248-954-9000.
Are you a self-storage owner or operator looking for service providers to help at your facility? Well, the Storage Business Owners Alliance, also known as the SBOA, has you covered. The SBOA is a premier online hub for connecting self-storage owners and operators to industry-leading products and service providers. We provide one-stop shopping for your business with exclusive offers to save time and money. At the SBOA, we believe by coming together, we help owners and operators grow revenue, gain purchasing power, reduce expenses, improve efficiencies, and increase profitability. We also offer many resources such as our conferences and self-storage unlock webinars to help self-storage owners and operators gain the knowledge needed to become more competitive in the industry. To become an SBOA member or to find out more information, please visit www.thesboa.com today. We can't wait for you to join the Alliance.
Good morning, self-storage industry, and welcome back to another episode of Self-Storage Unlocked, produced by the SBOA, Storage Business Owners Alliance. For those of you that don't know us and are joining us today, welcome in. Today, we're talking all about measuring the tenant experience at remote locations. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jessica Johnson. I'm the president of the SBOA. And again, we love putting these on for you. We like to help educate the industry and keep everyone updated on current industry trends and products and services that we are seeing out there. Today's episode is sponsored by MSI. We have Dan from MSI, and I'll let Dan explain to you a little bit about what MSI does and our partnership with MSI. And we couldn't do these type of webinars without help from other industry folks and peers and friends of ours. So huge shout out today to Citizen Storage Management, Da Vinci Locks, and Atomic Storage Group for joining us. Thank you guys again for being here. As you saw by that video, we have taken our Storage for Rookies program that used to be a 1-day, 5-hour training and enhanced it in 2024 to now 5 days worth of training. It's about 32 hours of training now. So it's a very accelerated program. So anyone in the industry that's a new owner or a newer owner, or even a current owner that's been around for a while that's just looking to keep their education in tune, please take a look at that program. You can visit storageforrookies.com if that's of interest to you. So we're going to get started for today, but before I introduce our speakers, we have a quick video for you. Awesome. You guys will get to meet Peter from Citizen Storage Management here in just a few minutes. A couple quick housekeeping items I forgot to mention. I see a lot of you are chatting over there in the chat comment section. If you have questions as we go along, please don't wait until the end. Ask us those questions while we have the speakers here with us today. All of them are very versed in this topic, so I think you'll get a lot out of today. And we will be asking poll questions in that chat area as well. We just do that to get to know you better so we can figure out how we can help you better in your self-storage journey. So if you would take a moment when we ask the poll questions, we'll pop them up on screen. If you could answer those in the chat section, we would greatly appreciate that. And Storage for Rookies, I also forgot to mention, it's, like I said, 5 parts. Part 3 is next Wednesday, March the 6th. So again, if you're interested in that training program, please take a look at it. You will be able to go back and watch the replays of sessions 1 and 2. If you come in for session 3, or you can wait until we do our next group, which will be in the next couple weeks, and you can come in fresh and watch these live with us and start all the way from session 1. So you have 2 options if you're interested in that program. Thank you, Rick. My fingernails are on point today. They're Harley Davidson because I like Harley, and it's Bike Week next week in Daytona. For anyone that lives in Florida, come visit Daytona. Fun week. So awesome. Let's get started. I'm going to bring up our co-sponsor of today's event, Dan from MSI. And Dan, tell us all about MSI and what you guys do and how long you've been servicing the storage industry.
Sure. Thank you, Jessica. And thank you, everybody, for joining today. So I'm Dan Cosgrove, CEO of Mercantile Systems, Inc., MSI. We've been dealing with the storage industry for 20 plus years. We started our business back in 1954, so we've been around quite some time. And really what we do is we exist to help our clients understand their customer journey. And we do that through tools such as mystery shopping. It could be mystery shopping in person, it could be phone, it could be web, and doing the whole loop. So not only just what was that experience at the initial outreach, but what was the experience throughout that journey? Meaning, did they get an email? Did they send a text? Did they call? How did all that go? That's all captured, tracked, and trended. We also do, as you saw early on, internal audits. We have an app that we built that collects internal audits, so we can build your internal audits custom. So your team can be in the field using iPhones, using iPads, whatever, to collect that data, as opposed to the traditional spreadsheets what most people are using. In the biggest picture, though, it's all about data collection and data analysis to make decisions. And so we're using these tools to collect data so we can understand what's truly going on and where to pinpoint your training and resources so you can, one, ensure you're providing the journey that you want, and then enhance that so you can stay ahead of your competitors.
And I will say this, with current occupancy declines, programs like this are super critical and beneficial to your business to help mitigate through some of that and really dig into your operations and see if there's something operationally going on, or like even Dan said, something going on with the customer journey that may be a barrier that you're not aware of. So definitely take a look at these programs if they are of interest to you. And we'll get into talking about some of the different things that we look at and that we've seen collectively across some of the mystery shops that Dan has done, some alarming stuff that we don't want you guys doing at your facility. So Dan, thanks for being here with us today. Excuse me. All right, next up, I have Jeff from Da Vinci Locks. Jeff, good morning.
Hey, good morning. First, shout out to your Storage for Rookies video. I'm pumped from that video. I feel like I was going to
It's a good one, right? I love the music on that one.
that was great. So just intro to me. So Jeff Haith, I've been in storage for over 10 years now. My background really is from operations. Prior to Da Vinci Lock, I was in REIT land between live storage and extra space and a variety of operations roles. And then recently transitioned over to Da Vinci Lock. And our claim to fame is we specialize in automated unit access. Feel really strongly and passionate about solving that for operators.
Well, awesome. Thank you for being here. And we do love the tool that you have. It's a very inexpensive one. So let's definitely talk about that later today for those owners and operators out there that may be interested in that. Next up, I have Peter from Citizen Storage Management. You saw that video earlier. Peter, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Awesome. Tell us all about you. And you've been around for a while, right?
Yeah, I've been around for a little bit. Managed and overseen roughly around 100 locations operationally. We currently are in 5 states managing properties. And I also have been on the vendor side of the industry too, on the tech side, and have a lot of experience with operators who are looking to go fully remote and understanding what type of technology they need in order to be able to run businesses like that. But very excited to kind of share my experiences, and looking forward to everyone else's comments.
Yeah, and you have some great experience, like you said, in the remote management side, which is becoming more and more prevalent and popular in our industry. So happy to have you here to share your insights with us, Peter.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And last but certainly not least is Mr. Rick Beal from Atomic Storage Group. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning, Jessica Johnson. How are you?
Well, my nails are on point. I know that.
They are on point. Pun intended. Pun intended.
Yeah. Thank you. Rick, tell us all about you. You've been around for a while as well. You speak nationally and you run this thing called Atomic Storage Group. What's that all about?
I do. So we're a third-party management company. So we manage and own probably about 65 sites around the country. About 50-50 for staff stores and also remotely managed. So we have an internal call center that do all our remote managed locations. And so, yeah, I'm excited to be here and excited to chat with a great group of folks today.
This is a great group of folks. I'm always happy when these come together and there's really good speakers. So let's bring all the speakers up and let's get started. Excuse me. All right, guys. So like I just said earlier, remote managed locations are becoming more and more popular. We believe and know that they combine or need a combination of tech communication strategies and then obviously those periodic assessments or audits, which Dan can talk about from what he sees from his perspective and what his findings are. And this is all to help monitor not only the property performance, but the tenant experience and the customer experience. And I think people are going to be a little more selective in where they spend their money right now. We're not riding the same highs that we were during the COVID period. So let's talk about some stuff. I'm going to start with the basics. And Jeff, I'll put this one over to you because you deal obviously with unit access control. So let's just talk about, security measures, access control that is beneficial to the property operations and the tenant experience for safety.
Yeah, totally. I think in thinking through it, I think there's a number of things to consider. And then, how robust you want to get with each one, whether it's facility access with gates and access control, getting into buildings to monitoring, which I think there's some really cool tools now to also do that in both robust and simple ways. And then unit access, where you're trying to solve for 3, 4, 5, up to 1,000+ unit facilities, thinking through the best way to allow tenants to get into those units in an automated way. And so, for us, like DaVinci Lock, we feel really strongly about making that as friction-free as possible. And I think there's other solutions in the market too that help you with that. But again, in thinking through even the topic of this conversation, it's both, hey, how do you do it? And then from there, how do you measure success? And so I think like gate systems are a really good way to track that information. And then also some of these more emerging ways to monitor activity at your facility.
Yeah, definitely. Peter, what are you using for access control and security measures at your facilities?
What we're using currently?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a mix based on, kind of when we take over a property, we take a look at what they're currently using for access control. A lot of times we'll try to upgrade them into a newer version of access control that we control remotely through the cloud, have data insights on access, and then for our fully remote properties, it's kind of a mix. We have a property that's using DaVinci locks as well. We just took over. And so we're kind of exploring how we utilize that from an operational best practice. And then we also have a property that has the Janus No Key system, which is the Bluetooth technology access control on the individual unit. And so we tried out, we're trying out a bunch of different technologies and really kind of refining how we currently operate, and really everything that we try to do, whether it's from operational marketing, it's from looking at what the customer experience is first and then working backwards from there. And if we take that approach, I think you're going to have a lot better success as opposed to saying, hey, here's some pretty cool new technology, I'm going to put it at my property and see what happens. I think you really have to start with that customer experience first and then work your way backwards.
Yeah, that makes sense to reverse engineer it and almost see like the usability study behind it. Like, does it make sense? Like, if you have a very rural property and your average, age range is like a 60-year-old, male, are they going to be receptive to a no-key system versus maybe something a little bit more simplistic? So that's good insight there to look into. Rick, how about you guys over at Atomic? What's your blend of tech?
Yeah, so we as well. So we have Noki in quite a few of our locations. Also DaVinci. We also have a couple programs that owners have done themselves, where they coin like Dan Vinci, which is always super fun when they try to do their own little program. But yeah, I think it's primarily what you kind of said there a second ago, to kind of see what works best for your folks. I really like to keep things simple and as simple as possible and make it just stupid proof. And, a lot of these programs, a lot of these storage things, that we have out here do a great job of it. DaVinci does a fantastic job of just making things stupid easy. And that's kind of our standard when we come to programs like that.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Next topic I wanted to talk about are some online feedback systems, surveys, reviews. And Dan, I'm going to push this over to you because you are like the survey master through mystery shopping and even like looking at internal audits. Let's talk a little bit through that, and then we'll add in some other commentary from the other speakers. But here's what I'll say. So Dan and I have partnered through the SBOA. Dan runs our mystery shopping for our members that choose to have it. We were offering free mystery shopping for people to test the system. And one of the biggest things that we found through this, which shocks me, were property managers, call centers, whoever was answering that phone was not asking for the 3 basic things that we need from a potential tenant lead, which is their name, their phone number, and their email address. At least name and phone number, right? If we get the email address, that's great. So, to me on an audit, that would be like an automatic failure for me as an owner if my staff was not asking that basic question. Because if I'm putting marketing dollars towards gaining leads through like Sparefoot and Aggregator, and then my staff is not asking those basic questions, and you're lighting a match to your marketing dollars. So Dan, talk to me a little bit about what you see going on with some of the audits that you've performed recently, or the shops.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because it's all about your CRM at that point. And if you're using your CRM to track ROI and you're not getting good data in there, well, then you're looking at bad numbers. And so you need to ensure that that information is being asked for obviously marketing reasons, future marketing reasons, and that it's being put into your CRM. Hence why earlier I talked about kind of a full circle of measurement, which we do. So when we do a survey or an audit, we give the option to have us go in and check your CRM to make sure that the mystery shop we just did was inputted, properly inputted and whatnot. We also give you an option to track it yourself and keep those records. The funny story is a client of ours years ago used our service for some years and then decided to do something else, and kept in good terms with them. And probably 3 or 4 years later, we were at a show on the East Coast, an SSA show. They were walking by the booth. We started chatting and we said, hey, we are now starting to track CRM data. They said, well, let's do like 10 stores. And we did 10 of their stores, mystery shopped them, went to their CRM. 0 out of 10 were logged in their CRM. They were spending $80,000 a month on marketing and CRM. Needless to say, they jumped on right away and said, we need to start this. And that's been several years now. So, it just goes back to what gets measured gets done. And that's a double-edged sword though, right? And we'll talk about that later in the unmanned locations, because KPIs and measurement is great, but it pushes people to do things. And a lot of times we don't really see what that's going to be until afterwards. So.
Yeah, definitely. Peter, I'll pass this one over to you. Are you using any type of reputation management system to help review or look at your reviews and look at those sentiments of what tenants are sharing about your properties? So that's the first part of my question. Second part is, have you identified anything through those surveys that you were able to go back and implement at the facility to make it better?
Yeah, so we use a reputation management tool that tracks sentiment on a per property basis, and it looks at not only our current property, but what the other competition within that specific market is doing. So not only can we compare our reviews on Google, and then obviously manage that accordingly with that property manager or issues at that property, we can see what that sentiment is within the market for our competitors too. And so we always are trying to beat those benchmarks within a specific market. And then we track on how many Google reviews we have on a monthly basis, the response rate, how quick we respond to them. And we really are hyper focused on that because it gives us a lot of feedback on what the market is saying about the specific property and kind of more an unfettered environment. And we always try to make sure our responses are very professional. We try to throw in some humor once in a while. Maybe I try to throw in some humor once in a while that maybe doesn't land, but who knows? We try to stay on top of it the best we can and use a lot of metrics to help us manage our individual properties. But it's I think it's a key component. If you're getting too aggressive with tenant rate increases, you're going to get some Google reviews, right? And so you always want to see how far the market is willing to go, and then you adjust your operational approach accordingly. But I think just with the previous comment too, on the capturing the phone number and name, if you don't have systems right now in place that automatically do that and take that responsibility away from your property managers, I think you're operating very old school and relying on a manager to capture two of the most important key elements on any lead that comes in. So we have systems in place that automatically capture that and pushes that into our property management system that allows us then to create workflows and follow up lead campaigns for those individual leads that has called us. And right now in the last, I'm sure you guys all agree, Rick, you've probably seen this in the last 18 months, 24 months, demand has been sucked out of this market. And so every lead that you actually get costs more and it's harder to convert. So if you don't have systems, CRM systems, lead captures, you're testing like a QA aspect of your business, what Dan does, which is I consider that a QA part of quality assurance, part of your business, and you're not evaluating anything, you're going to get left in the dust.
Jessica, let me add a little bit on what Peter said too, that I think was super key, is that replying back to the Google's responses. So you got a social media, and in storage, you only get 4 or 5 per location per month on average, I think is probably what the number is. So there's not a lot, but those replies are key for a couple of reasons. One, it helps your rating and your ranking. And 2, it shows you're alive, right? It shows you're paying attention. And if you get a negative review, and because you get so few, that has a natural weighting situation going on, you can reply to that. And customers will look at the negative because they're going to be there. But when they see your reply professionally done, like Rick said, it's going to negate that issue and show your response. So you can turn those lemons into lemonade. And I think that was really key what Rick said. And I commend you guys for replying back to those, because not everyone does.
Yeah, I love that.
Negative reviews are probably more important than the positive reviews. And maybe I'm wrong with this, but I put more weight on the negative reviews, because most people who are looking at reviews are then and Google ranks the relevant reviews, not based off of when they post, but how relevant it is to that property. And so I think having putting your best effort forward on that reply and a negative review will help you land more leads.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll add to that is, no one ever wants to hear that they're doing something wrong, right? And we always want to take the approach that the customer's always right, and maybe in some instances they were not. Don't get combative online. Take it offline. Tell them, we're sorry you've had this experience. Please call our office or give us your, contact us here so we can discuss this more. Again, the willingness to cure the negativeness of the review is what others are going to be looking for. And it's very, not only can Google identify it, I think humans in nature can identify too, fictitious reviews. You asked all your friends and family to go give you a 5-star, you got 5-star reviews. That means nothing. We want to see lots of reviews, and we want to see that rating around like 4.2, 4.3 is what we like. Others on the call may have different measures that they're looking at, but that's kind of like our standard of what we want. We want a lot of reviews, and we want to be at that like 4.2, 4.3. Rick, anything you want to add on what you guys do for surveys, reviews, and how that's helped your business?
Yeah. So I think there's 2 things. One of the most difficult things for remotely managed sites are getting the customer feedback and also getting review requests. You look at staff stores, it's always, oh my gosh, Rodney is so amazing. Oh my gosh, Jessica did such a good job. It is always staff related 90% of the time. Sure. And then when you look at remotely ran sites, it's typically either, you do have those really good ones, but it's typically, my door doesn't work. And people don't review self-storage just because it's self-storage, unless they're requested. It's when they're upset. And that's when they typically review one, because they don't have anybody to talk with. And they call someone, and, they call a call center or someone like that. And they usually typically go to review. So I would highly recommend to have a review request in there where you can bifurcate conversations where they can leave a complaint here, and then they get their thoughts and their negative reactions out somewhere else. And if they can have a positive review, it goes somewhere else. Also having surveys where they have a survey for a move-in, a survey for a move-out, so you can measure things that you just don't know about. That's huge. So why people are moving out. We do that at all of our sites, so you can see, overall population, site-specific issues, if things are happening, and it's really interesting to see that over time, to see what people are doing and why they're doing things.
Yeah, definitely. And then to add on that, what are you guys using? Like, you don't have a property manager in some of these scenarios, right? That can push and say, hey, would you mind filling out this review for me, mentioning my name? What are your triggers in these remote environments to get a customer to even know that there is a review that you would like them to take?
Yeah. So I use Storage Reach. I'll put a plug in there for Kale, my friend. Great, fantastic program. There's other ones that are out there, Bird Eye, ones that are affordable. The bare minimum, use your, program it into your self-storage software. Put a link in there as a bare minimum. Those typically don't go through, but really invest, because the software is $80, and I hate buying additional stuff. But one thing that's going to push your marketing through is getting positive good Google reviews over and over again.
So one thing we did is, we ran a couple competitions like every quarter. One is like who can get the most Google reviews, not like stars, but just the quantity. And one thing that is good, but also very frustrating to me, is that when we run those competitions, the number of Google reviews skyrocket, right? Because the managers want to win a gift card. And so they're reaching out to all their tenants. They're asking them, they're texting them, because we have a texting feature that we can track the open rates on it. We can track if they're clicking. And same thing with, I think Rick does, where like you can send them a review request, and it has like a prompt question if you have a problem, and then I'll send them to a separate thing. If they are happy, then it sends them a Google review. So it kind of bifurcates like what I think that's what Rick, you're saying that she did.
Yeah.
But we do the same thing, and it's interesting. The best months we ever have on Google reviews is when we run a competition with our managers for them to reach out to their tenants. And I'm not a huge believer in fully remote managed properties. I'm kind of in the middle. I like hub and spoke model, where you have a hub located near that remote property, and then you have somebody boots on the ground that kind of is that person for it. And so those remote properties still know the individual within an hour and a half drive range of that remote property if there's an issue. And that manager at the hub knows all the tenants there and tries to build those relationships with them. So it's not like it's a fully remote thing, and they may get one of our, because we have an internal call center as well that helps us run everything. So it's not like they just get one of those random agents, but we try to make it more personalized as possible with a remote property. So even with those, we still get kind of like, like Angie's great, she went out of her way to help us out or whatever it is. But yeah, for us, our biggest peak or spike in reviews is always when we run that competition. And it drives me nuts, because I'm like, well, why does it take a competition for you to do what I'm asking you to do on a monthly basis?
Yeah, I mean, again, if you can build it into the standardization of your training early on with these, employees, like that, you ask for reviews, you try to get reviews, maybe it's in your bonus structure, some form of, or like you said, running a competition. But yeah, I mean, they definitely have to be driving it. If there's not a human there driving it, you need to, as an owner operator, find the right technology, like Rick was saying, Storage Reach, other programs, even in your internal PMS system that will deploy and push that out and ask for it. I rent from a large national REIT. When I moved in, I want to say 2 days after move-in, I think I got a text message and email, and then it was on like a drip cycle every 2 to 3 days after that until I finally answered it. And I did answer it because I'm in the industry, but I think if I wouldn't have answered it, it times itself out and it stops bothering the human, right? It's not going to.
Did you get that many rate increases as well?
I damn sure did, Rick. I really did. I want to see what their Google reviews state rate increases. It cannot be pretty right now. I'm sure it's not. And audience, I just want to quickly remind you, if you have questions, ask those live. We did enter 2 poll questions into the comments. Number 1 is, are you interested in receiving a free mystery shop of one of your locations? So you could put number 1, yes or no. The second question is number 2, are you interested in learning about third-party management? Again, write 2, yes or no. We'll respond accordingly. Okay, moving on. And Jeff, you have some insight at DaVinci into 10 Federal, which is a large portfolio out there of self-storage properties. And you guys do a lot with tech. I'd say you're one of the more advanced tech companies out there that we've seen. Are you guys doing anything on the 10 Federal side as far as virtual tours of your remote property so somebody can actually get a view of what this thing even looks like? And if it's not a virtual tour, do you have any mechanisms in place through like a kiosk or one of the systems out there that does virtual assistance? And what I mean by that is, you know, they can get on with a live agent and interact with them in that way. And if the answer is no, we can ask the others, but just wanted to see what you guys are doing over there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. Absolutely, 100%, all of that. As you start to lean on technology more and more as a kind of a substitute for the times where you maybe ordinarily would have a manager on the site, I mean, you really have to be thoughtful about how you introduce that, because every rental matters, and you can't afford to lose them. And so I think in just hearing everyone's response before that, just in thinking about reputation management, that's an uphill battle when you're thinking through replacing that interaction with a person. And so just thinking through, you ask about like the tenant experience and how do you rent units and show that to them. I think kiosks are a good idea. It's one of the ways to get there, and absolutely. So 10 Federal does use those as well. I think that just being thoughtful of however they can interact with you, whether it's calling in, hitting your website, visiting the property, and all those places, customers like to be able to visualize the unit that they would receive. And so we do use a tool for that. And so just again, for us, it's more about trying to replace that, maybe historically someone might get a tour of the facility. And so just getting small doses of that through the online experience is something that we would use.
Awesome.
Yeah, with 10 Federal, I think they've come up with some very creative strategies to do remote managed. And, it's interesting though. I forgot the head of 10 Federal, what's his name? And yeah, he was demonstrating how he has a drone that he can launch right from his iPad and see kind of more the aerial view of the property for security. And I like that they are, and I think they're involved with the DaVinci side too. And, I think when I look at remote managed properties, the goal obviously is to be able to take a small property, even a large property, and reduce the payroll expense. Like that's the goal, to maximize your NOI, right? And when you keep on adding on more and more layers of cool tech toys or more stuff that it kind of offsets a little bit that reduction in payroll. And I think Andrew and team are trying to experiment with that and figure out where is the right balance, with it. And I think we are more cautious on when you take a look at remote managed properties on that expense side, because that's the purpose, is to try to balance customer experience, high occupancy revenue management with a reduced staff to help boost your NOI and then hopefully boost your valuation. And as you continue to add more and more layers, I would just caution operators to really, I think people can get pulled in or sucked into really cool ideas of tech, but it really doesn't deliver any results more than it was prior. And so I would just say be cautious about that. But I always like watching what Tenant does. I think they're kind of leading the way on testing stuff out at properties. I don't know what the cost of a drone on an iPad is, but it's kind of a cool feature. I don't know how much I would use it, but it's interesting.
Just to jump back in real quickly, to Peter's point, yeah, I think like drones are an example where I think experimentation is good, and then figuring out where you scale and where you don't. One project we worked with 10 Federal on is to build an in-house tenant app where the tenant can self-serve many of the same functions that they might call a call center in for or visit the property. So things like payments, even intending to move out notices, helping to simplify that and create a better qualified move out notice, things like pictures and again, renting units, transferring units, creating some systems for that. So we just started that into last year, and it's been hugely successful to help automate more and more of those processes. And again, where you can, soliciting for feedback along the way.
Yeah, and just to go back to Peter's point, I always make this reference. Obviously, as you're talking to tech companies, you're talking to a sales individual, right? They want to sell you on the top level program. Sometimes you need the Mustang, you don't need the Lamborghini, So just be cautious and make it relevant to you and your site, because each site has its own different nuances. So again, thanks for mentioning that, Peter. Yeah, lots of this is cool but then if it becomes cost prohibitive and you're not getting any more results than you currently were, then what's the point? You've just added on more work for yourself and your team, et cetera. We have 3 questions in the chat audience that I want to put out here. First one is from Curtis over at XPS Solutions. How do you address and ensure the curb appeal meets standards, particularly regarding boots on the ground efforts when working with 1099 contractors? How do you recruit them, and what turnover rate have you experienced? Rick, I'll do this for you, and then we can go over to Peter and anyone else to chime in on this one.
Awesome. Curtis, what's up, man? So absolutely. So we have a pretty extensive checklist on that. It kind of goes to the other question as well. So they go through and they have to do a checklist every week. With that comes with photos. So we lay out a specific area whenever we take over a store that we need photos of this, probably, I don't know, 20 or 30 photos plus video. So it's pretty detailed and pretty micromanaged what they need to do. Like I said before, I like to keep things really simple. So anybody who comes in can just take our training and take what program we use and go through and actually kind of do the training so they can kind of self-train themselves. And then also just go through and say, okay, this is the area I need to take a picture. This is the area I need to do a video. This is what I need to show. And then you kind of go through that. Then our district managers follow up and make sure it meets the standards that we've set for them. And then turnover, that's a crapshoot, just like any manager at all. So, sometimes we get people who are just freaking fantastic and they'll be there forever. Other times we'll get people that, month or two, they're like, I'm good. But that's typically what we get. It's just a crapshoot, just like it is with storage managers. And then we get those people, we recruit them like we would normal managers, just through Indeed. We have kind of a hiring process that we want to pick people with common sense. So we do a couple of hoops that people have to jump through to get there before they even have an in-person or a Zoom interview with us. So that's kind of how we manage our boots on the ground. We call them bogs. I want to coin that term. So if anybody out there wants to use that, that's the term that I want to coin, is bogs, boots on the ground. So it's not copyrighted. So feel free to use it all you want to without paying me royalties. So bogs. So that's how we kind of manage our bogs. That was a lot, right?
I'm just lost for words, Rick. That doesn't happen often, but you are one of the few individuals that comes out with that commentary that just stops me in my tracks sometimes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Peter, anything you want to add in on what Rick said or what you guys do at your facilities?
Yeah, we don't use 1099 contractors. We only do the hub and spoke model. So all of our employees that are bogs, I'm trying to use it. Our bogs, they're the ones who are the ones who are going to the property on a weekly basis, and it's very same thing, very systemized checklist, do X, Y, and Z. As far as landscaping goes, we contract with vendors who mow the lawn, make sure whether it's a spring cleanup, if you're doing flower beds, mulch, stuff that really is important. We always look through CapEx projects every single spring, looking at what we do, potholes, paving, seal coating, all the stuff that you normally would do on an asset management type of basis. But Yeah, it's a checklist, controls our normal audit process where we have monthly store visit audits from the DM. That's a systemized Excel spreadsheet that ranks everything. They have a score, and then there's things that need to be improved upon. That's communicated with the BOGS person, and then we have annual audits as well that are significantly more in depth at the individual property. Again, very systematized, reportable, and then also it's based on a grade on how well they do. But I think Dan says it best: if it can be measured, it can be tracked. Or sorry, it can be tracked, and it can be managed, whatever it is.
Yeah. And Dan, we'll come back to you in a minute because Peter was just talking all those times that they do audits, how frequent they do audits, what the level of audits look like. So we'll touch back on that, but I want to get to the audience questions real quick first before we touch on the audits and mystery shopping. This is from Heather. For someone who is renting online, how do you communicate with them that the property that they are interested in is either partially staffed or fully remote? And how do you communicate the technology they will be using at that property? Rick, I'm going to go to you because Peter just went.
Great question. So unfortunately, I don't have an acronym for that one, but I'll work on it. So look at all the points where the customers contact you. So start at Google My Business, or Google Business Profile, whatever they call it now. Start there, make it very clear of what it is, what they'll expect as the experience. So start at the top of your sales funnel, kind of work your way down there. So making sure all of your socials match, making sure all of the aggregators say the same, all that stuff. It goes down to the store. So when they show up, they don't see, they don't expect anything else. Make sure your photos match that. Your photos should match your store anyways, but don't have, people or staff manager or anything like that in your photos. Your website should match that as well. So you go to your website next, and it should be very clear that what the customer should expect. When they call, make sure that's very clear in the script. Make sure it's very, very clear on what the customer needs to do, like steps. That they need to bring a lock? Is there one in the storage unit waiting there for them? So just being really clear with people, make sure it's clear with the signage that they pull up to the store. Just being very, very, very clear on what the customer should expect. And, by doing that, it's pretty easy. And just, being clear with the customers.
Yeah. Now, Peter, you said you kind of do the hub and spoke model. So this is really good for you guys, especially as it relates to Google Business. You have to very clearly identify operation hours, on Google, and probably your signage on your doors and stuff. So tenant comes up to it and the door's locked, they know that they can go to a certain location to continue the process if they so choose to. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, the way we approach CTT, communicating the technology. I'm gonna start using.
Oh wait, we got an acronym.
CTT. This is some gems coming out here. This
yeah.
Peter, is that one trademark?
Just I just texted my trademark attorney, and they're on it. It's gonna take 2 years. But the CTT, communicating the technology, we actually have within our call center software, we in CRM system, there are different tabs within that specific property. So the technology or access that whether it's Janus or whether it's DaVinci, like the no key versus the DaVinci locks, or our regular key access to the property. That information is there for our employees, for them to then communicate that to the potential customer. And then we also have kind of a QA side of things too. So we have somebody who oversees our call center software and our whole agents, and they review and listen to calls, and specifically they focus on the remote properties or the spokes, and making sure that everyone is communicating how to access the property effectively, and that that they're doing the right job to give the expectation to that tenant on what they're going to get at the property. And again, because it's a spoke, we kind of have somebody who takes ownership of that spoke, so it's not kind of just out there and it's one of the remote ones, and there's no really ownership by a specific employee. We have that ownership for that spoke at the hub, and so they are always trying to make sure that if when another one of our employees answers the call because it rolls into the call center queue, that they get an email with the follow-up notes from that call, and they're able to go listen to that call immediately, and then be able to, say, hey, or we use Slack in our company for intercompany communications, and they are able to message that person. We have a call center software channel, and they're able to say, hey, just make sure you're clarifying X, Y, and Z. So it's kind of self-regulating within the company, because you do have that ownership from the hub.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that. Curtis has another really good question. And then Dan, I'm going to go over to you. I promise for the mystery shop and internal audits, they're active today. I like when they're active. And I like that Curtis did bring up this question, because there's some opinions out there that I've heard related to this. But he's asking, what is your opinion? What square footage is conducive to successful remote management? And at what point would you recommend having team members on site or a hub and spoke model? Peter, I'll start with you, then we'll go to Jeff, then we'll go to Rick. And Dan, if you want to chime in too, because you look at this a lot and see a lot of data, feel free.
You got it. I don't know what the honestly the right answer is here. I think we have 3 tiers at our company that we look at. Is anything under 25,000 square feet probably be a complete spoke. Anything between 25 and maybe 35,000 net rentable square feet, it is hybrid hours. So maybe we're only open Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you have on-site staff from 10 to 5. And they're able to take care of a little bit more of the property's needs because it's a higher volume property. And anything like around 40,000 above, it's typically, the 1.5 staff that you have. And then once you get to like 80,000, I guess there's 4 tiers. 80,000 above, you have really kind of 2 full-time people due to the volume and the amount of people that you would have coming in and out of the property. So that's kind of our approach. I know there's a lot of people out there trying to get the big properties fully remote as well, but for us, that's how we take it.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I wouldn't want anything over 80,000 fully remote. It needs staff, I think, personally. And there's 100 different opinions out there. I don't know that one is right, wrong, or indifferent, bad, good, whatever. So this is a really great question. Anything you wanted to add in on this one, Jeff?
Yeah, I think both questions, the last one and this one, are kind of together.
Yeah.
And I like Peter's points on the size. I think is a factor. I like some of the buckets there. For me, I think of it this way. I think you could run, so kind of opposite you, Jessica. I think you can run any size property in some version of unmanned, but unmanned is so relative. All stores are going to need a person to support it. So it's really about like what the function of that person is there at the site to do. And the more you pull them out of the customer service side or the sales side, the more you got to look at technology and the stack of technology you need to offset that or support it well. And I think that we're still in the infancy of understanding exactly what that is, what the right solution is. I still think the products have a lot of maturity to go to get operators to where they really want to be. And I think that's all of them. That's why you see a lot of experimentation and people jumping from product to product, because they're all dabbling to figure out, how do we make this work in a really, and again, to the last question, a cohesive way? How do I direct the customer where I want to go? How do I ensure a very high success click-through rate in a way that really competes or even maybe beats what a manager experience would look like? So I think it's like to be determined. My guess would be over the next couple of years, as technology continues to advance and products become better and they work together better. I think that's on the vendor side. That's important to me, is how does DaVinci Lock work with the different facility management softwares and monitoring services and communication platforms. So I think that'll continue to evolve. But today, right now, I do think that the bigger the site, you're going to need a manager to help offset some of that. But that may not be the case in the future.
Yeah. Anything you wanted to add, Rick?
It just depends on what salesperson you talk with. But I think first and foremost, you got to play smart. I wouldn't sacrifice, if you have a larger facility, it's dumb to sacrifice 20 hours of payroll for the legitimate parade of horribles that will follow you for not having a full-time staff member there. I've seen it time and time again. We deal with it all the time for having stuff like that. Like they always say, some things work for some of the people some of the times. Smaller sites, 100%, yes, absolutely, they can be remotely ran. larger stores, like Jeff and Peter said, there's a hybrid model that works. I don't think it has to be all or nothing. I think just a very good, reasonable effort can be made.
Yeah, and as I'm looking at time, we have 9 minutes left, so I'm going to try to get through as much more as I possibly can. Gosh, we should have done an hour and a half, 2-hour one for this one.
Stop talking, Jessica. Stop talking.
You stop talking, Rick. Anyway, let's see. I want to get to Dan, just because Dan can provide some really good tools through mystery shopping, which is really like a third-party perspective of how your facility looks to them, a consumer's view, and then even the internal audits. And Dan even has an instant internal audit where they've been doing this long enough that they know from the standard questions that they ask in the mystery shopping, it'll weight it where it'll give you a true idea of what's going on in your property, and with the internal audit as well. So Dan, I know there's some customization out there too for individuals if they want to dive deep into their brand. They have a portfolio. But talk to me about just these two programs and what an owner can gain from a data perspective by utilizing these programs that will help their business and operational efficiencies.
Yeah, before I go down, let me just take 1 second and talk a little bit about the unmanned stores. And we talked about being clear to the customer, the prospective tenant, the challenge, and I'll say write to a fourth grader, right? When you're writing and thinking think of a fourth grader. The other thing I'd suggest that you do is have your team members or friends of your team members go out and actually experience it. But when they do it, turn this on and video record the whole experience and have them talk through it. Meaning, I'm walking out of the car, I'm walking up. How do I rent this? What did it say? Oh, I see this sign. This sign says this. I think this. That's going to be enlightening, because we sit at our offices and use terms we know that we think the customer is going to know. And so I think those two things we see from our experience from surveying that our clients get a little bit enlightened on. So I would just suggest that. When you talk about whether it be mystery shopping or internal audit data collection, let's just use it from a data collection standpoint. There was talked about here, Peter talked about doing his on spreadsheets, which a lot of people are doing. I'm not a proponent of change to change. Like, change if it's going to actually do something to make it better. But if you're using spreadsheets and it's working, the data is giving to you, then stay there. But if you can use this data to enhance things, meaning I've got 1099 vendors, or I got vendors, and I can use data to say, here's what we consistently do wrong. Here's what we did wrong, but we can fix it. You can send videos back and track it all from a dashboard. Then start looking at those types of tools. When we talk about mystery shopping or internal audit data collection or any of that, it really is about measuring the experience and what's taking place. And it's measuring what you're training them to do. I want to be clear. It's not the guest experience. The guest experience is your Google reviews, your Yelp reviews, yada, yada. That's what the guest is saying. You're saying, I'm hiring somebody, I'm training somebody, I want them to do this. And where most people drop the ball from there and go to Google reviewing, they're missing the gap in the middle, meaning, are they really doing it? And if you aren't measuring them and training them, in this case, we're talking about mystery shopping or internal audit data collection, they probably aren't doing it, and they're doing it the way they feel is right. And in turn, you start looking at Google reviews and data reviews or Yelp reviews, and you're getting that experience, assuming they're doing what you're asking them to do. And you need to make sure they're doing what you're asking them to do 80, 90% of the time, and then look at those reviews. And only then can you say, this is the accurate customer experience, and do we like it or not? So when you're doing mystery shopping, internal audit data collection, whatever it is, that's what you want to measure and you want to look at and do. That tool allows you to share an actual experience of a customer in there to say, here's what you did. Here's how you followed that experience. Here's audio or maybe video. And here's your score. So pat on the back, or here's areas we need improvement. And then all of that rolls up into massive amounts of data. If you're large, you've got corporate wide, regional, districts, et cetera, broken out, which gets really digestible and really dynamic. Because let's face it, baseball's changed with Moneyball, right? Data, data, data. Every sport is data, sometimes a little bit too much, but it's all data, and it has enhanced the performance and ability to be clearer. And this industry is not missing it. It's just getting more and more advanced, as you can see. And when you start talking about declining occupancy, you know, what's happening in this industry for 20 years has had nothing but up, right? Everybody's an angel. Everyone knows what they're doing. Well, now that things start to drop, you know, things start to show. What do they say? The tide is going out. We'll see who's wearing pants. that's what'll take place. And our business with shopping, audits, and things like that gets busier as these types of things start to happen. So I hope that added more, and let me know if there's something more specific you want to talk about.
No, definitely not. Thank you for that insight. And we did ask another poll question. If you are interested in learning more about the SBOA's Instant Audit Program, go ahead and throw a yes in the chat section for us. We'll be happy to get in touch with you. It's pretty interesting, just some of the data analytics and statistics we see on the back end as we mine through this and go through this. I want to round this out before we go into closing announcements. We might go over a few minutes, and if any of my speakers need to jump, if you have a hard stop at noon, I totally get it. We'll see you later, and thanks for being here. But if you could stay behind, it might just go over by like 2 minutes. But Peter, I want to take this to you because you had said this, just employee training, employee engagement, and Dan kind of just touched on it, with what he was saying, but it starts there, right? If your employees are engaged and they're well trained, then they're going to give a better customer experience and you're going to convert those leads. So talk to me about what you guys do culturally over at Citizen to make sure that your staff is trained and engaged.
Yeah, so we look at training in two different buckets. We look at launch training, and then we look at sustainment training. And we have different training programs for both buckets. So obviously your launch training, we have a very systematized training program that's checklist that's broken out on a day-to-day basis. That's a 2-week program. And like we have a trainer's copy of our program, and we have a trainee's copy, and they both initial every single time they go over something, and we have an agreement at the beginning saying that the trainer's going to provide all the materials, tools, and resources for them to make them successful, and then the trainee agrees that they're going to take the responsibility for the effectiveness of that training. And we really think that those two are key parts of any launch training, that the employee that's getting trained takes that responsibility. And it's the trainer's responsibility to deliver the tools. And if they don't understand those tools or the expectations, they're failing on what they agreed to. And so we really want to make sure that they know that they're part of the training responsibility, not just the trainer. And we kind of put that through, because if I don't want anyone going through the course and thinking, hey, I understand how to do a move in through, our call center software versus, maybe SiteLink. And so I want to make sure that before they initial it, that they fully agree that they understand it. And so that's kind of on the launch side. And then we have some follow-up tests at 30, 60, 90 days to verify that training that was done in that first 2 weeks. We have visits that go back to them. And then on a sustainment training, the part that I kind of like more than the sustainment or the launch, because sustainment, I like being creative with that. We have competitions for call of the month, and I've kind of explained this at other things, but each person selects their best call from the previous month for a lead, one that they exemplify. And by the way, we put criteria out. Here's how this is going to be called a best call. You can judge what you did to this criteria, and then you submit that call to your district manager. The district manager then gets 15, 16 calls that they get to listen to every single month, and they get to hear what you think your best call is, as opposed to it's an interesting it's kind of eye-opening. So you'll get some really bad calls that aren't even close to the criteria. And what that does is it allows the district manager to set up retraining for the individuals who are kind of at the low rung every single month of, hey, this is what they think their best call is. It's not even close to what we want it to be, right? So then we get them back with our district trainer, and then that district trainer works with them over the next month to try to get them up. But then the top 4 calls then get uploaded into Slack, and then all the team members get to listen to all 4 calls, and then we remind them, hey, this is the criteria that these calls are being judged upon, and they get to vote for their peers on what they think is the best call. And so it kind of gives the employee that intrinsic value by hearing the recognition from their peers that they think that this call is really good, so they get rewarded that way. And then we have a gift card, and we try to present them an experience as opposed to just saying here's money. Like we will give them like here's movie tickets, here's dinner, so we try to give them an experience with as opposed to just cash for winning that. And then so every single month, though, you're thinking the entire company is hearing 4 great calls every single month. And then every single month, the district manager gets to then evaluate who thinks that that's a good call, and then we put them back in retraining and try to. And what the hope is slowly that the overall quality of our calls constantly goes up every single month, because the retraining and also hearing 4 great calls, and it's a repetition thing, and then they're hopefully able to hear things from other people's calls incorporated into theirs calls. And we always try to take a relationship selling approach on everything that we do, and as opposed to just script reading. And so I want somebody's personality to shine through. That's how we hire. We look for character, we look for personality, and just empathy and a lot of the customer or the employees that we hire. So it's a very long-winded answer to kind of how we take approaching, because training to me is one of, like, training and revenue management for me are my 2 passions of what we do. And I get very excited about both of those. I read a lot of books on it. I read the psychology of pricing. I read the psychology of training. Whether you're a visual, somebody who likes learning from written. So we try to adapt a lot of our things to cater to those 2 ways of learning. So I mean, I could do an hour and a half
just on that. Well, we might ask you to, Peter. It might be a new episode of Self Storage Unlocked coming soon to theaters near you. I am going to close us out because it's 12:03 and I need to release the audience. But if you could just tap in for like 2 more minutes real quick, a couple quick points. We'll play a video for you at the end of a mystery shop that we did of someone that said, "This is my A+ employee." And boy, were they not an A+ employee on this call. It looks like Rick had to jump. Bye, Rick. Just wanted to say trade show season is back. We will be in DC in 2 weeks. Most of us, I see some heads shaking. I know Dan will be there. I'll be there. Jeff will be there. Peter will be there. Our booth is number 817. Peter, do you have a booth? And if so, what number?
Yeah, we're right up. We're on the same aisle. I think it's 803, but we're just a couple booths away from you. This is going to be fun.
It is going to be fun. Dan, your catty corner for us. What booth are you?
822.
822. Jeff, sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's what I was going to say. You're putting him on the spot. What I can guarantee is we'll be in the same room. So
well, I want the audience to know, like, you guys get to come. If you only see us virtually on stuff like this, you get to come meet all of us that were on here today. I don't think Rick will be in attendance at that one. Not 100% sure, but that's in 2 weeks. If you need information and want to register, I highly suggest you attend a national show. It's quite an experience, tons of education, networking, after-hour events. It's super fun. That's at the Gaylord in DC in the next 2 weeks. You can go to selfstorage.org, which is the National SSA's website, to learn more about that program. Speakers, I will release you. Thank you guys so much for being here. Audience, if you could stay back for 2 more seconds, I have one last final thing to say. I hope you have a good rest of your afternoon and weekend. Want to let you know again, Storage for Rookies, session 3 of the 5-part is next Wednesday, March the 6th, and that goes from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Tons of information in that educational session. It's a great one. If you want to learn more about Storage for Rookies, storageforrookies.com is your place to go, or email us at info@thesboa.com. We're happy to help you. And then we'll be back next week again for another Self-Storage Unlock. We don't normally do them back-to-back back-to-back weeks, but that's just how it shook out from scheduling. So next Thursday, March the 7th, same time, same place, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern. We have the gals from Universal Storage Group coming on to teach us. It's called From Trees to Keys, everything you need to know about self-storage development. So if you're a newer owner-operator, you've got land, you're looking to do a development site, or you're buying something and you want to add buildings to it, or just want to learn about development and self-storage, this is the session for you. Again, that's next Thursday, March the 7th from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Follow us on social media. We put a lot of updates. We're out there on every single channel, inclusive of TikTok. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you for joining the SBOA. Stay tuned and listen to that call that this person said was their A+ employee, and see if you think that they're an A+ employee. And if you're still here, put in the chat what they did that was not correct.
Thank you for calling Self-Storage. This is how may I help you?
Yeah, and do you guys have any storage available, spots available?
You said you're looking for a parking space?
No, I need some storage. I'm moving to town, and I need to put my house in there. my apartment, I guess I should say.
Okay, absolutely. Are you looking for an air conditioned unit or a non-climate?
I think non-climate. I don't think anything in there is probably that, sensitive.
All right, and so with that, our non-climate units with the drive-up access, we have the largest being 10 by 35s, and then down from that we have 10 by 30s, 10 by 20s, and 10 by 15.
Yeah, maybe a 10 by 15. I mean, actually a 10 by 20.
A 10 by 20? All right, and those are starting at $269 base.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You too.